Hey everybody, welcome to Fit Tip Tuesday. Today I'm doing sort of a crossover event. I started this project last week during Fab Fit Friday when I showed you how to drape a simple straight skirt on my ditto form. So if you followed along with me on Friday, or maybe you tried it over the weekend, you may have a couple of skirt pieces that look like this. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you how to prep these pieces and then create paper pattern pieces from the draped fabric pieces. And then on Friday, during Fab Fit Friday, I'm going to show you how to work with your skirt sloper that you are creating now to create something that's flattering for your figure. I might have mentioned this during Fab Fit Friday. A straight skirt is not super flattering on me right now because I have a bit of a belly going on. And if you're wearing a straight column of cloth and your stomach sticks out, that's not attractive. Well, at least it isn't for me anyway. So I am going to design something that will camouflage my tummy and be attractive on Friday. So I hope you'll join me for that. But before we get to that, I have to make a paper pattern out of these fabric pieces. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take all the pins out. That's my first step. I suppose I probably could have done that before I came on today, but I just wanted to show you what it looked like directly off of my ditto form here. And what I'm going to do is I am going to cut off everything except the lines that match on my ditto form. So for example, let me just move this paper out of the way. Okay, so you can see here on this skirt piece, I had extra fabric here so I could pin it together. I'm going to get rid of that because working with a skirt sloper that does not include seam allowances when you're designing new styles is easier than having those seam allowances there and then having to true them up and just, remembering they're there. So we're going to be working with a pattern, a skirt sloper pattern that does not have seam allowances. So I'm just going to use my rotary cutter and a ruler to cut off the extra fabric I added so I could pin it together on my ditto form here. So that's going to be the first step. And I'm using a ruler just so I can get a nice straight line where it is straight. There is a tiny, tiny little curve at the top. You can see it on the grid of my cutting mat here. I do have a little shape, but basically I'm a rectangle. So this is my front, and I can tell it's my front because I don't have any dart. But just to label it, I'm just going to say skirt front, and this is my hip line right here. Okay, so that's my front. And then it's always a good idea to mark your center front. Okay, and we're going to transfer that onto the paper as well. All right, so that piece is all set. Let me just cut the seam allowances off of my back piece as well. So again, up at the top, I think I might have a slight curve, but then, from my hip line down, it's a straight shot. So I'm going to use my ruler. Okay. All right, and this is pretty easy because I only have this one seam to trim. So there you are. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take out my dart here. Okay, so here is my back. So I can just write on here, skirt back. And this is my hip line. Okay, so now I've got my two pieces. So I'm going to use my L-shaped ruler to draw guidelines for me to pin my pattern pieces to. So this is my center back. I'm going to start over here, and I'm going to work with a pencil now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the grid on my paper as well as this L-shaped ruler to create sort of a starting point. I'm going to measure down from the top of my waist here to my full hip. So on me at center back, it is 6 3/8 of an inch. So what I'm going to do to get this started here is I'm going to mark where my waist is going to go, and I'll just mark it at the top of the line here. And then I'm going to measure down that 6 3/8 of an inch and make note of it on my pattern paper. So here's my 3/8. Okay, and then I'm going to use the L-shaped ruler to draw that horizontal balance line. Okay, so I'm just following along the first line I drew, and I'm just going to connect this like this. All right, so you can see now I basically have most of the features of my skirt already transferred to the paper, even though all I did was draw a few straight lines. So the next step is I'm going to take my skirt piece and I'm going to pin it so that the horizontal balance line on my fabric is lined up with that paper. And basically I am going to just line that right up all the way down. And I'm seeing that my skirt is slightly longer than the paper, but that's really not a big deal because I just picked a random length for this. I didn't, I wasn't sure what the actual length of the skirt was going to be. But basically, what I want to do is I'm just going to pin it so it doesn't shift around. And I'll just put a pin over down here. I'll put a pin up at the full hip, like this. Okay, and I want to make sure that my horizontal balance line is agreeing with the horizontal balance line on my fabric. So we want to make sure that lines up. Then I'll just stick one up here. Maybe one down here. All right, so now I've got my fabric pinned to my paper. So now it's really just a matter of tracing the side seam and the waist edge. And the reason why I physically pinned the fabric to my paper is so I can slide my paper around and make it easy to work with. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to sort of dash along the top edge. When I get to the dart, I'm just going to make like a lines indicating the dart, and then I'm going to draw up and back down, and I'm just going to follow along all the way to where the side seam is, and then I'm just going to make an L-shaped bracket like that, or an L shape, and then I can turn my paper around again and I can just follow this right along. Now I know once I get past my hip line, that is 100% straight, so then I can just use my ruler to finish drawing that. All the way down. All right, and then the last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to use my hole punch to just punch a little circle into the base of my dart, and that way I will have it punched through onto my paper. Okay, so that takes care of tracing the back, so I can get rid of my pins here. All right, so I'm going to put that away for right now. All right, so let's take a close look at this dart. Okay, so I can see my little dot that I made with my hole punches right here. So then I can just draw that in, so I have it. Like this. Okay, so there's my dart. You know, and then I can also sort of make my line for my waist a little bit nicer with my ruler. I can kind of fill in my tracing here. All right, so there's my top waist. This is this is my hip line, but it's also my horizontal balance line. All right, so I've got that labeled. I'm going to put skirt, sloper, back, and then I'm also going to put the date. So today is March 1st. The other thing I want to mark here is I'm just going to make this, make that neat. And then I'm also going to mark my center back over here. All right, so I know where it is. So this is my center back. And this is my side seam. Just so I have it. Okay, so that completes the back of my skirt. Then, because I've already established these two horizontal lines on my pattern, I'm just going to use the grid that I can see underneath my paper to continue that horizontal balance line along, so I can use it for my front as well. So I'm kind of cheating here, but because I can see my grid, I know it will be straight and square. So I'm just going to continue that on like that. And I'm also going to continue this lower hemline I drew. And right now, just keep in mind, this is random. I have no exact length for this. I'm just going to, okay. So here's the cool thing. I continued that. So what I'm going to do now is, okay, so I'm just going to draw my center front line equal with these letters right here. Or I'll just do it right along this, like that. Okay, so I know that's square. And I also know I'm not going to need the rest of this paper, so I'm going to get that out of the way. I can pin my center front right along the center front, and I can line up my horizontal balance line here, and I can also line it up here. And then I can also just finish up by connecting it there with pins, and down here. And I think I'll put another one over here. Now, if I were making this straight skirt, I would make sure I left enough room between my two side seams to add a 1/2 inch seam allowance. But I'm not going to be sewing this up because I'm not going to be making a straight skirt. I mean, if you want to test the fit of your draped pattern, please feel free, but make sure you leave room between the two pieces as you trace them so you can add your 1/2 inch seam allowances there. I'm noticing that my side seam is not straight all the way to the full hip. So I'm going to make it straight all the way to the full hip. It's starting to curve a little bit out here. So I'm just going to add a little bit over here, and then I can true that up later. But basically, I want my side seam to be straight from the hip down for now. So I am just going to do this. I'll just blend in to my original waist over here. Now remember, my ditto form was slightly larger than me, so adding this little bit here isn't going to hurt anything. And it's also sort of truing up this line to be straight and then curving into the waist there. So I'm just going to leave that like that. And then again, I'm just going to, this is right here. Didn't cut exactly on this line. I'm just going to dash in my waist. Okay. And then let's just take this fabric off. All right, so there is what my front looks like. And again, I can fill in my top waist with my ruler. You know, and I can kind of true it up. Oops. Okay. All right, so there is my front. So this is my side seam. This is my hip line. Which is also my horizontal balance line. And this is my skirt sloper front. And it's 3/1/2021. All right, isn't that exciting? All right, so that would be my completed skirt sloper. And even though we traced and measured everything, what I'm going to do now is I am going to just cut the back right on the line. And then I want to just check it. So basically I'm going to walk the pieces to make sure the front and back side seams match. And the way you do that is you want to start at your horizontal balance line. So basically, this is my horizontal balance line right here, and I can see through this paper, so I know it's right here, front and back. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk this back edge along my front, and I want to make sure it matches at the waist. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my pattern tracing wheel here to mark where it is. Okay, so I've got that. And then let's just look and see. You can see that that's spot on, so that matches. Then I'm going to check my side seam from the hip line down. So basically this is a straight line, so I can just see that that is, in fact, if I mark it and check it, those are exactly matching. Okay, so the reason why you want to start at your horizontal balance line at the hip is because anything below the hip is just the added length that you added. Everything above the horizontal balance line or your full hip line is how it fits you to the waist. So it's really important that you check your side seam from that horizontal balance line up to the waist, and then from the horizontal balance line down to the hem. Because if these pattern pieces were off a little bit and you started at the hem and went up to the top, it would just look like, you know, your horizontal balance lines might not match, and then your waist, one of them would be higher than the other, and you wouldn't really be sure where the error occurred. So always start at that horizontal balance line at the full hip and work your way down to the hem and then up to the waist. So I am satisfied that these two pieces agree with each other. All right, I'm going to leave these two pattern pieces just like this for now, because during Fab Fit Friday this week, I'm going to use them to design a new skirt. So if you want to follow along with me, make a copy of the sloper, because I'm going to show you how to use it to design a different shape We're going to cut it up. We're going to create a waistband. We're going to add flare. We're going to add some really cool design details to this skirt. And you always want to have a copy of your master sloper. So if you want to make another kind of skirt, you have that available. So you never want to cut apart your master. So this is going to be my master, and I'm just actually going to write right on it big, master sloper, so I know not to cut it up. All right, so I hope you'll join me on Friday for Fab Fit Friday to see the design that I'm coming up with to create out of these two simple straight skirt pieces. It's going to be really fun. If you have any questions or comments, please post those below. And I do want to mention, if you want to follow along with me and you don't have a dress form to drape your initial pieces from, and you want to try making your own DIY skirt sloper, I do have a skirt draft workbook in my online store, and I will post a link to it in the video below so you can check that out and follow the step-by-step instructions to create your sloper, so you don't have to worry about not having a dress form to drape it on. So that's one other thing I wanted to mention. I hope you're enjoying this little fun skirt design sew along. And really, I feel like the fun's going to start on Friday when we start making it into something different. So I hope you'll join me for that at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time live. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you again soon.